Hey folks, I hope this video finds you well. Today, I'm going to draw on my professional experience to explain to you how the mainstream media makes you a puppet and how to avoid that happening. When studying journalism in a formal setting, as I did, you don't just learn how to work as a journalist, you learn how the industry itself functions and what tactics are used. One of the things we were made to do was to look at the media through the eyes of an average person and figure out what it was, particularly in terms of broadcast media, that made people more likely to trust them. No one likes to think of themselves as easy to fool, but the truth is that most modern humans are very easy to manipulate. We are emotional creatures more than we like to admit, and techniques have been developed in order to make us believe the narrative that is presented, whether or not that narrative is true. The level of authority we invest in a person is very much dependent on simple things. For instance, the way that they look. Have you ever noticed that you hardly ever see television journalists in casual clothes like jeans and a t-shirt? No, we always see them in fancy suits that to the average person look like they would take a month's salary just to afford. Another element of visual manipulation is the studios from which news bulletins are broadcast. If you see a news anchor sitting behind a large expensive desk with big digital screens or fancy visual projections on a green screen, you have been psychologically primed to believe what they say is true even before they open their mouths to speak. This is because humans are visual creatures, and we, in a sense, can be hypnotized visually without even realizing it. The way in which broadcasters speak is also a key aspect of their reputations as trustworthy. I challenge you to do something. Take some time out of your day at some point and listen to various news stations, whether on TV or radio. You'll soon notice that regardless of the station or what news item is being presented, many journalists seem to speak with almost the exact same tone of voice and rhythm. The steady and deliberate pace at which they deliver information is clearly not the natural way that humans speak. However, it is effective at appearing calm and reassuring, therefore making you, again, more inclined to take what they say as fact. Perhaps the most insidious tactic of all is the deliberately emotive language chosen for use in reports dealing with tragedy and disaster. Have you ever noticed that when a particularly bad road accident occurs, when it is reported publicly, the number of women and children killed is always mentioned separately from the rest of the death toll? This is not done by accident. It happens because, from a historical perspective, women and children have always been seen as the weakest and most vulnerable members of society. News organizations know this, and they use it to manipulate your emotions. So, what can you do to avoid being made a pawn in their game? Well, my first piece of advice is going to sound strange, given the fact that I know how important it is to be informed about what goes on in the world, but you should not devote too much time to following what is reported in the news. Although it's important to understand what's happening around you, on a large scale, the events reported are simply too big for you as an individual to do anything about. So if you obsess too much about what's happening, all that will happen is you will feel hopeless and powerless and slowly become depressed. And with things the way they are these days, you don't need any more reason to be depressed than you already have. What you should do next is to avoid getting your news from one single source. We all have biases, whether psychological, cultural, or political, and we do better as people when we acknowledge those biases and the biases of our favorite news organizations and choose instead to absorb information from a variety of perspectives. Doing so will allow you to get the most complete and accurate picture possible. Finally, if there is one thing above all that you should bear in mind, it is that despite all their high and mighty talk of journalistic ethics and objectivity, the news business is just that, a business. And at the end of the day, they will do whatever it takes to get your attention. And the truth, all too often, comes in second place to the bottom line. Before I go, I'd just like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone so far who has signed up to support me on a monthly basis via Patreon. It really means a lot and does help me get through daily life and cover the bills I have. If you enjoy my content, you can also sign up. But if monthly support isn't something you can commit to, I welcome any and all once-off contributions via PayPal. For now, farewell.